why the U.S. economy is struggling. The hidden costs of Trump's decisions and global impact. In recent times, the U.S. economy has faced significant challenges that are affecting not only the country itself, but also its relationships with global powers. Inflation, rising costs, and global tensions are making everyday life difficult for ordinary citizens. In this video, we will dive deep into the reasons behind the sharp rise in costs of basic commodities, the broader global economic implications, and how the policies of the Trump administration have contributed to these struggles. From the skyrocketing prices of eggs to the global isolation of the United States, this is a look at the bigger picture and how it impacts both Americans and the world. As inflation rises across the globe, particularly in the U.S., many Americans are feeling the pinch, from basic grocery bills to the everyday necessities we often take for granted. This situation has roots in various domestic and international decisions that have shaped the current economic landscape. One significant issue is the rising cost of goods, with some prices, like eggs, seeing absurd increases. But it doesn't stop there. What about the diplomatic and commercial tensions that have escalated in recent years? In this video, we will discuss how these issues are interconnected and provide insights into how the U.S.'s political moves have set the stage for an economic crisis. Stay with us for a deep dive into these critical issues that are reshaping the world economy. Rising costs of essential goods. Americans are now paying exorbitant prices for essential items such as eggs, where prices have soared to over $16 for just 12 eggs. These price hikes have caused a significant burden on the average American, struggling to make ends meet. The cost of eggs alone has become a symbol of the broader economic strain felt by millions. At the same time, the global supply chain disruptions continue to worsen the situation, leading to even higher prices for basic goods like milk, tortillas, and even a simple cup of coffee. Inflation and the dollar's decline. Inflation in the U.S. has reached levels that many experts believe are unsustainable. With inflation touching record highs, the U.S. dollar's value continues to erode, making life even more difficult for everyday Americans. The current economic policies under the Trump administration have exacerbated this inflation, with rising tariffs on goods imported from places like Latin America, Canada, and Europe, contributing to the overall rise in prices. The U.S. is now facing the consequences of these protectionist measures that are hitting American consumers the hardest. The impact of Trump's protectionist policies. Trump's economic strategy, particularly his America First agenda, has led to trade wars and strained relations with global partners. The U.S.'s exit from the Paris Agreement, for example, has not only isolated the country from its allies, but has contributed to growing global tensions. Trump's insistence on imposing tariffs, such as the 25% tariff on Colombian products, has made everything from coffee to flowers more expensive for American consumers. These protectionist policies are often presented as helping American workers, but in reality, they are leading to higher prices for everyday goods and services. The disconnect between Trump's promises and reality. Despite Trump's promise to reduce living costs for Americans, his policies have only made the situation worse. From the soaring prices of groceries to the increase in the cost of healthcare, Trump's actions have failed to deliver on his promises of economic relief. Instead, the cost of living has risen dramatically, putting pressure on the average citizen who was already struggling before his administration took office. This is a direct contradiction to Trump's campaign promises of lower prices and a thriving economy. U.S.'s withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. Trump's decision to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement is one of the most controversial moves of his presidency. This decision not only put the U.S. at odds with global leaders, but also increased America's environmental impact, as it is now one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gases in the world. Countries around the world, especially in Europe and Latin America, have increasingly distanced themselves from the U.S. due to these policies. The withdrawal has also made it harder for the U.S. to work with its allies on global environmental issues, which may have long-term economic consequences. global isolation, and diplomatic tensions. Trump's aggressive foreign policies have led to the U.S. being increasingly isolated on the world stage. From alienating key European allies to engaging in trade wars with China and other major economies, the U.S. is facing growing diplomatic isolation. This isolation has significant economic consequences, as it makes it more difficult for American businesses to thrive internationally. Meanwhile, countries like China and the European Union are strengthening their economic ties and reducing their dependence on the U.S. Trump's economic policies and the trade war. The trade war initiated by Trump with countries like China and Mexico has had a devastating impact on the U.S. economy. While the trade war was designed to address trade imbalances, it has caused significant disruptions in the global supply chain. As a result, the U.S. is seeing price increases in a variety of goods, including everyday items like bananas and flowers. Additionally, Trump's threats of 25% tariffs on Colombian products, particularly coffee, have led to higher prices for American consumers. This trade war has done little to help American workers and has only added to the inflationary pressures that are driving up the cost of living. The consequences of Trump's economic decisions for everyday Americans. One of the biggest impacts of Trump's economic policies is how they have affected ordinary Americans. From rising grocery bills to expensive gas prices, Trump's decisions have put a strain on American households. The cost of living continues to rise, and many Americans are now paying more for goods that were once considered affordable. Trump's administration has failed to deliver on its promises of reducing costs, and instead, it has created an economic environment that is making it harder for the average American to survive financially. Discrimination and civil rights under Trump's administration. Trump's policies have not only affected the economy, but also the civil rights of many Americans. From discriminatory labor practices to the erosion of workers' rights, Trump's policies have disproportionately harmed minorities and marginalized communities. His focus on supporting industries that rely on low-wage labor has led to a growing divide between the wealthy and the working class. This has created a more polarized society where many people feel left behind and unable to make a decent living. In conclusion, the economic policies and decisions under Donald Trump have had profound effects on both the U.S. and the global economy. The rising costs of essential goods, the growing trade wars, and the withdrawal from international agreements have isolated the U.S. on the world stage and worsened the financial situation for Americans. From soaring grocery bills to higher health care costs, Trump's promises of economic relief have turned into a nightmare for many citizens. The impact of these policies is still being felt today, with everyday Americans struggling to make ends meet while Trump's base continues to support him despite the negative consequences. The rising costs of goods, the diplomatic tensions, and the erosion of civil rights under Trump's administration all contribute to an increasingly uncertain future. If these trends continue, the U.S. may find itself facing even greater challenges in the years to come. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends. We want to hear your thoughts on Trump's economic policies and their impact on the U.S. and the world. Do you agree with the way things are going, or do you think there's a way to fix this economic crisis? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for more in-depth analyses in the future.